you to some more Vosh content here, so you've been warned. I know he is very cringe with his imperialism and Western chauvinism. Just has some really problematic and frankly childish points, but it's important to call out these hacks for what they are, and this includes this Dylan Burns character, which apparently he was on, I think, one of the state directors or worked on the Mike Gravel campaign when Gravel was running for president. And so this is very interesting because both of these people are very pro-war, pro-U.S. interventionism, pro the U.S. staying in Syria, occupying that country. If they had been commenting in 2003, they probably would have been in full fucking support of the U.S. invading Iraq. But the Dylan Burns part, being such a pro-war hack, such a U.S. imperialist, is how does that work when they supported Mike Gravel, this huge anti-war voice, this huge anti-war candidate that we lost recently? Make that make sense. Please help me out.
My very last live stream. So we're the rebels in Syria we are the rebels in Syria doing the chemical attacks on the people. So we're, it says W-E-apostrophe-R-E. I think this person is saying, was it the rebels that did the chemical attacks on the people in Syria? You guys had to, follow this stuff. The OPCW whistleblower, I don't know if you guys remember this, but it just came out not that long ago. It turns out that all the claims from the Western governments were total bullshit and they had no evidence.
Yeah, it's completely true. Like, if you actually know anything about the OPCW scandal, that's exactly what happened. The actual investigators on the ground who were investigating the supposed alleged chemical weapons attack found no evidence that there was a chemical weapons attack. And they also said that the canisters that they found were more than likely placed there, not dropped from a helicopter, which this fucking dummy Dylan Burns doesn't know or is leaving out, clearly hasn't read any of the OPCW documents that have been leaked, which are very easy to do. I'll show them in a little bit on WikiLeaks for anybody to see. Again, thank you WikiLeaks and the Gray Zone and everybody else who has been on the right side of this huge pro-war deception, probably the biggest one since Iraq. And that's why, again, these people are literally shilling for war crimes that were committed under the Trump administration. That's kind of who they're fucking holding water for at this point. Vaush, Dylan Burns, TYT, all of those fucking imperialist hacks. And this Dylan Burns character, he claims to care about peace, but is for the U.S. intervening and destroying countries halfway around the world. Let's achieve world peace in our lifetime, but continuing to occupy and commit war crimes in Syria. Yeah, that's going to lead to a very peaceful future. Dylan Burns. I mean, what a fucking idiot.
Dylan, you're still here, right?
God, Vaush is...
This is complete
Vaush
horseshit,
is so...
right?
This is complete horseshit. Please tell me some lies, make up some shit to actually, call out Kyle Kalinske for making a good point and calling out this pro-war deception. Please, I gotta support U.S. imperialism. It's what I do. Please, give me some bullshit.
Yeah, Dylan, do you have like 2 seconds in Discord? Can you come in? Why do people want to defend Assad so badly?
And again, look at that. Calling out the OPCW cover-up for what it is not being pro-Assad. It's not trying to defend Assad. Even if it was, that doesn't fucking matter. It's actually pointing out what happened. The OPCW investigators were silenced. Their report was changed in order to manufacture consent for the U.S. dropping bombs, I believe, along with Britain and France in 2018. Again, this is under Trump. People trying to not actually engage in, reality or have an honest discussion about this are literally holding water defending Trump's war crimes. It's not about defending Assad, being a pro-Assadist. It's calling out U.S. aggression, U.S. imperialism that literally resulted in fucking bombs being dropped, people being killed, places being decimated and destroyed by these bombs. I mean, Jesus Christ.
American
So fucking horrible.
By defending Assad, all right? Hey, you know how you could have challenged American hegemony? By supporting the fucking Rojava project. But no, Trump pulls...
No, the U.S. Bringing up Rojava is so fucking stupid. The United States should have never been in Syria in the first place. Guess what? Mike Gravel, who you helped campaign for because supposedly you wanted him to be president, look up his video with Primo Radical. He said exactly the same thing, and he was correct. U.S. troops should have never been in Syria. They are illegally occupying that country, no matter what part it is, whether it's Rojava or otherwise. They need to get all the fucking troops out, close the 800 plus military bases the United States has in 70 plus countries. They don't need to be there. They don't need to be anywhere. They're not spreading democracy. They're not spreading human rights. They're not there for the right reasons. They're there to protect and expand the interests of the U.S. empire and capitalism, white supremacy.
So they get fucked by Turkey and by Assad. But no, Rojava, the actual anarchist project, is bad because they work with American troops against ISIS, and Assad is good because...
I think anybody is saying that Vaush keep putting out these straw men. What people are saying is it's always bad. If you're an anti-imperialist, which obviously Vaush and Dylan Burns are, even though Dylan Burns claims to support world peace and wants everybody to come together and have a peaceful coexistence, how the fuck is that going to happen when the U.S. has military bases in over 700 countries? Like, again, you can't make this shit make sense. You got to be really drunk on American exceptionalism and imperialism to take anything these hacks say seriously.
What? Because he works with Putin? Why? All right, hold on. I just need to make sure. Foreign policy stuff is complicated.
No, it's pretty simple. You're either on the right side of history on this issue, or you're siding with Trump and getting bombs dropped on Syria and getting people killed. And again, if you're actually concerned with figuring out what happened, what these people killed, how these people were killed in Duma, because it's clear it wasn't from chemical weapons, then you would actually take this OPCW stuff seriously, but you don't, because you're not an honest actor.
No. I know Kyle supports the Kurds. I'm not saying he doesn't. By the way, people who like Assad tend not to like Rojava, okay? Like, they actually quite dislike Rojava generally. They say that Rojava is a project of the American State Department, in spite of the fact that it's immeasurably based. But Assad is cool, in spite of him being a right-wing dictator.
Again, the U.S. troops in Rojava or any other place in Syria should have never been there in the first place. And again, they weren't in Rojava however long they were there for to, support some type of anarchist project. They were there because they thought it would help their geopolitical interests in the country, you fucking rube. Jesus, he's so stupid. But again, how do people, just absolute fucking hacks like this, have hundreds of thousands of subscribers? It blows my mind. I would pull my hair out, but I only have so much of it.
Hey, how's it going? Hey, I'm doing great. I'm still mad that you stole my belt. I gotta find some other accoutrement for the,
Look, you're getting kind of old. What are you, like 40-something now?
So this is the Dylan Burns character. Again, they, I don't know their pronoun. She worked on the Gravel campaign as Maryland State Director. And he claims to know stuff about foreign policy. Let's achieve world peace through our lifetimes by supporting U.S. imperialism in Syria. Let's get some world peace by doing that.
To have someone like yourself actually...
Again, if you're actually concerned about promoting world peace, Dylan Burns would be calling for the U.S. to get out of Syria. The United States is still occupying a third of the country, the oil producing regions, the food producing regions, and also calling for the sanctions to be ended. So, the people there actually are able to get electricity, food, medical supplies, so they're able to rebuild from this illegal occupation and war.
Fighting competition at this point. We need to move on. We need to move on from anarchids like yourself to chat icons like Caleb Alpin, who releases books. What books have you released? I mean, his serious book on BreadTube.
I wrote a Five Nights
really
at Freddy
is
fan
actually
fiction
academic.
once.
Well, that's cancelable at this point. Did you see about the Republican donations?
It was
You're
very-
basically Republican wash.
It was
Spring
extremely
water.
cancelable at the time too, in many ways. Okay, I just need the info on this. Okay, well, the OC, what's the
Okay, so the thing
He doesn't even know what OPCW, the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons.
about this, there's a million things that get me. There's a million terrible fucking things Assad has done that could be talked about. You can talk about how every election he's ever participated was a massive.
Oh my god. Your brain on imperialism, American exceptionalism, I don't know exactly how to describe just how completely ignorant and disconnected these people are from reality as they're sitting, very comfortable within the, imperial core. They don't have to worry about food shortages. They don't have to worry about, if their power's going to get turned off. They don't have to worry about, if there's a shortage of medical supplies because the, U.S. empire has decided it doesn't like who is in control of their government. Because again, they're sitting pretty. They're sitting fine within the imperial core while calling for the U.S. to continue to intervene and destroy and kill people all around the globe because people have done bad things there. And again, they're siding with the military-industrial complex and Trump in this case because supposedly Assad has done bad things. Really? I mean, get your own fucking backyard in order before even saying anything that happens in any other part of the world. Again, the United States is the biggest purveyor of death and destruction in the world. The United States has 800 fucking military bases in 70 plus countries. Maybe focus on that. Focus on what you can actually control, not trying to dictate to the Syrian people that they need a change in government because you think Assad has done bad things. I mean, Jesus Christ, the fucking hubris and certainty they have about just being such pieces of shit is just overwhelming.
You could talk about how in 2004, this is something I'm just gonna say because nobody knows about this and it angers me so much.
So because they supposedly did something bad in 2004, we need to be continuing to intervene and occupy and commit crimes against humanity in Syria? Make that fucking make sense. It don't.
There was a football match in northeastern Syria between a predominantly Kurdish area and a predominantly Arab area. And the predominantly Arab area started holding up pictures of Saddam Hussein, which pissed off the Kurds, right? Mm-hmm. And this started kind of like a conflict between them, and there was some fist fighting and stuff thrown. And later, Assad's forces came in and mowed down 30 Kurdish protesters, only Kurdish ones. Then Kurds tore down a statue of Hafez al-Assad, and more were tortured, killed, including children and women. This is stuff that...
Yes, and if that actually happened, that's bad. But that does not mean the United States needs to be intervening and occupying that fucking country and literally choking it to death with sanctions right now, affecting supposedly the most vulnerable and marginalized people that these fucking imperialist hacks claim to care about. It doesn't make any sense.
Vast majority of his presidency. The thing is, all of this stuff is completely undisputable. If you look at the start of the Syrian civil war, it started because he opened fire on protesters and the people had had enough. If you look at the barrel bombs, that's completely undisputable. If you look at his history of torture, that's completely undisputable. If you look at his history of
they, they're talking about fucking torture when the United States has the world's biggest fucking prison population, where solitary confinement, which the United States, the UN, I should say, has declared is a form of torture. That's used all the time, especially against political prisoners. We run a torture camp at Guantanamo Bay. Again, I'm not saying Assad hasn't done, isn't engaging in horrible things. He very well could be. But the United States is, again, the biggest purveyor of death and destruction all around the globe. And these people want that to continue. They want that to expand because supposedly Assad is this bad boogeyman doing all these really, really horrible things. The U.S. just has to intervene. They just got to drop more bombs. That will lead and create more peace, according to people like Dylan Burns and Vash.
of speech,
Trash.
or propaganda, all of it. It's completely undisputable. The thing is, there are barrel bombs, obviously documented. There's documented instances of his coalition targeting hospitals full of sick patients and civilians.
Oh my God, there was a fucking protest in LA over the weekend. A clearly marked medic was fucking shot with less lethal rounds, but still fucking shot, okay? Call out that fucking bullshit. Stuff that you might actually be able to control. Not for more war, not for more U.S. aggression, not for more U.S. imperialism. But they can't because they're fucking Western chauvinists. They maybe want to improve the material conditions a little bit in their own country, in the imperial core, but what happens to those other people as a result of U.S. imperialism and intervention overseas, they can just fuck off. And that is a just horrible, horrible, really disgusting, myopic way to view the world.
Like, this is all documented. The vast majority of casualties in the Syrian civil war have actually been from the Assad regime. Now, they've killed more people than ISIS did in Syria. In fact, it's not even close in comparison. When it comes
if Russia hadn't stepped in, because again, the reason that Russia got involved in this was because the U.S. was ready and willing to let ISIS take over the country. Russia rightfully saw that as a bad thing. You know, these fundamentalists, these jihadists, these, you know, hugely reactionary ISIS, you know, groups, people were about to take over the country. Russia stepped in so that wouldn't happen. The United States, in order to initiate regime change in Syria, was willing to let ISIS take over the country. Okay? And again, do these people not know how ISIS was created? ISIS was created out of the power vacuum that existed in Iraq after the US's disastrous, illegal, fucked up war in every way, in which chemical weapons were used by the United States in that war of aggression.
Weapons. There are multiple different chemical weapons attacks all across, as I sent you that list. What they're talking about with the OPCW report is one chemical weapons attack.
Yeah, and it was a chemical weapons attack that, as a result, for the Trump administration saying there was a chemical weapons attack, Assad supposedly, you know, crossed this line, and it resulted in fucking U.S. airstrikes and escalating the aggression towards Syria, towards the people in Syria. But let's we're gonna let's achieve world peace in our lifetime by continuing to bomb Syria. Dylan Burns.
Should already be
Mike
done.
Gravel, man, he'd be fucking rolling over in his grave right now if he heard somebody on his campaign talking this bullshit.
That they're not disputing all of these things. It'd be like if I said...
So this is a whistleblower report where they're disputing with, and I don't know how substantial the dispute is, but they're disputing one of these 36.
One of like these a fucking huge list of things. It'd be like if somebody was like, hey, you see this list of concentration camps? This one right here, it seems a little weird to me. You see that little smudge on the paper right there? I think they're all fake. That's the
That's
level of what
nobody's saying that. Not anybody who I've heard comment correctly about this OPCW up. This scandal is claiming, without evidence that other chemical weapons attacks hadn't maybe happened. But again, show some fucking evidence for these claims. 36 chemical weapons attack. I haven't heard that number before. What principled anti-imperialists like, Aaron Mate, Max Blumenthal, Ben Norton, etc., myself are saying is that this led to the United States dropping bombs on Syria, along with, like I said, I think the UK and France, based on this false information, because no chemical weapons attack took place, is what the OPCW ruled. More than likely, they said chemical weapons attack did not happen. Those supposed gas cylinders were more than likely placed on top of the apartment, on these apartment buildings, not dropped from a helicopter. They didn't have enough evidence to support these assertions that these people are making.
I get from Holocaust deniers, so
And then look at this. He's comparing people who deny the Holocaust to people who are rightly highlighting the OPCW cover-up that led to the U.S. committing war crimes under the Donald Trump administration. Think about how fucked up and disgusting that is.
this is getting at. And so what they're talking about is, number one, they don't want to deal with all the other instances. They want to deal with this instance. And the proposal is that...
Okay, and you know why they don't want to deal with this instance? Because it's true. It's the same thing with why the OPCW leadership doesn't want an actual investigation into this, because they know when the facts come to light, it will in fact show there was a cover-up. The evidence doesn't support that a chemical weapons attack took place, and then, all of these people will rightly, be castigated for upholding these war crimes that were committed under Donald Trump, and they're continuing to try to hold, water for that.
Bashar al-Assad. It was actually, people did die in this chemical attack, so who could it have been?
It wasn't a chemical attack, you fucking idiot. He's obviously clearly hasn't read the OPCW team gathered, this is from WikiLeaks, you can look it up yourself. The OPCW team gathered after the meeting and reviewed the salient points discussed. It was agreed upon all present that the key takeaway message from the meeting was that the symptoms observed were inconsistent with exposure to chlorine, and no other obvious candidate chemical causing the symptoms could be identified. And here is Ian Henderson, one of the principal investigators, particularly with, these canisters. In summary, there you go, Ian, unclassified OPCW sensitive. This is page 8. In summary, observations at the scene of the two locations, together with subsequent analysis, suggest that there is a higher probability that both cylinders were manually placed at those two locations rather than being delivered from aircraft. Okay. So whose analysis do you trust more? The actual OPC investigators on the ground, like Ian Henderson, who are actually in Syria, who investigated the supposed chemical weapons attack, saying that more than likely than not, the cylinders were placed there, not dropped from an aircraft. Also saying there was no evidence to suggest that there was any type of chemical weapons attack taking place, or these fucking pro-war shills, Vosh and Dylan Burns. Just fucking hacks, both of them.
Say it was a false flag operation by the rebels. Is there any evidence provided that it was the rebels? No.
And again, what people are saying is there was a OPCW cover-up. They are trying to censor and suppress what the people who investigated this actually found, which is what I just pointed out, and they want all this evidence to be brought to light because we don't know who committed these attacks. There's no evidence that it was the Assad regime, but this area was being controlled by Islam, something like that. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, but it was controlled by this right-wing jihadist fundamentalist group at the time. And again, why would it makes no fucking sense? Why would Assad do that then? Something he knows would get the U.S. to continue to intervene and escalate in the country. Makes no fucking sense. Just as they were beating back these JL Islam people at the time. Doesn't make sense.
The means to do this, that is highly questionable.
And again, I just showed you the OPCW documents, the leaked documents that you can find yourself, read for yourself in WikiLeaks, like I just showed you, showed that more than likely than not, those canisters were placed there manually, not dropped from an aircraft. Again, these people, are they just this stupid, that ignorant? They're not able to search WikiLeaks and find this stuff themselves? Are they just lazy? Do they just... I mean, whatever reason, it's fucked up that they're, parodying this deception. It's just gross. It's gross.
Most likely done by helicopters, and I don't know if you know this, but it's very difficult.
Again, that's not what it says. One more time. From Ian Henderson, the principal investigator. There is a higher probability that both cylinders were manually placed at those two locations rather than being delivered from aircraft. And what did this fucking hack just say? Let's rewind a tiny bit. Sorry, we gotta listen to this bullshit.
And the proposal is that it wasn't Bashar al-Assad. It was actually, people did die in this chemical attack, so who could it have been?
And again, there's no evidence that was a chemical attack. That's the whole fucking thing as well.
People say it was a false flag operation by the rebels. Is there any evidence provided that it was the rebels? No.
Again, that's... Alright, sorry, I already went over that part.
Even have the means to do this? That is highly questionable. It most certainly most likely done by helicopters.
That's literally, the report says exactly the opposite. It was more than likely placed there manually, not dropped from the sky, you fucking dumbass. Jesus.
Know this, but it's very difficult for the FSA, ISIS, or any group that doesn't have an actual standing army to get aerial equipment like helicopters. What does all the evidence point to? The Syrian regime doing it. But because
again, no, it doesn't. No. If anything, the evidence and just the context, if you actually look at the context, it would suggest that it would be, this Jaish Islam, I believe that's how you say it, group doing it, not the Syrian regime, you fucking idiot.
Leak. And by the way, a lot of the whistleblowers, like the information these whistleblowers had access to, was not the same that the actual people who did the vast majority of...
Ian Henderson. So fact-finding mission. Look, fact-finding mission. This is the part of the OPCW that went to investigate this, which Henderson was a part of, which I read to you what he said about this. There are a number of the on-site team of the incident location, including myself, who have been wondering if we will be requested or given opportunity to review the draft report before it comes out. Because again, the OPCW higher-ups basically censored and doctored this in order to kind of support this pro-war U.S.-led deception. In my case, I went to 3 locations, and so this is supposedly Dylan Burns, trying to discredit the actual scientific experts on the ground. Like, what the fuck? Is he an engineer? Like, what? Does he have any scientific backing? No. Then listen to the people who actually did the fucking scientific investigation. You absolute imperialist piece of shit hack. Look at this. Also, I was tasked to contribute to the review of location and munition. I was the only metallurgist on the team and the only chemical engineer with expertise in pressure vessel design. So, AKA, he has the expertise, the knowledge, and the background to be able to determine whether those canisters were placed there manually or from an airplane, a drop from above. Dylan Burns? Fuck no. He's just spouting off more fucking bullshit.
Research had access to. So I would first question whether these whistleblowers actually had the information available.
Again, if he actually had done any research, he would have found that out very fucking easily. The whistleblowers were the people who completed the fucking investigations. Ian Henderson went to 3 locations. He was the principal investigator. Jesus
and
Christ,
next I would
dude.
say, not if you even were to, let's say we gave them complete benefit of the doubt and say, this one is sketchy, maybe slightly. This is a little bit sketchy. That's kind of weird. Kind of weird, champ, in fact. The thing is, what about all the other ones? What about all the other evidence? What about all the other evil things he did? And if the idea was that it was a false flag operation done by the United States with the white helmets or everything after Barack Obama put a red line in the sand so we could invade Syria, why the fuck didn't we invade Syria? If the whole point of this was to do this secret special ops operation where we go in and we do this fake flag, a false flag attack to actually do this chemical attack so we make Assad look bad. And
Oh my god, I'm sorry. I really can't stand any more of this fucking pro-war imperialist deception that both of these fucking hacks are parodying just fucking word vomit, right? I mean, Jesus Christ, that's because, like, again, you're not on the left if you're not a staunch anti-imperialist. These guys, sorry, I don't know how they identify it. These people are just Western chauvinists. Maybe they care a little bit about improving the material conditions in the, the imperial core in the United States, but it's clear they give a fuck all about people in the global south at the end of these fucking U.S. bombs, people feeling the, wrath of U.S. sanctions, people starving as a result of it, people not having access to, medicine, electricity shortages, etc. And again, they clearly haven't read any of this whistleblower documents, or they have, and they're just completely ignoring it, because again, everything they're saying goes against what the documents show. So, I mean, again, just more upholding fucking war crimes that were committed under the Trump administration, and yet they're supposed to be like progressive, like it's ridiculous. So the FF team, which Ian Henderson was a part of, in which Henderson's report said more than likely or not, those cylinders were placed there manually, not dropped from above. In the OPCW, their meeting minutes, no other obvious candidate chemical causing the symptoms could be identified, aka there's no evidence there that any type of, this was the actual toxicology meeting that the OPCW team, which included toxicologists, clinical pharmacologists, one bioanalytical, one toxicological chemist. And what are these fucking hacks qualifications to call those experts who were actually there, who completed the investigation, who have that education, who have that scientific background and training? What are their qualifications? I guess they just like seeing more war, aggression, and U.S. imperialism, and so they'll try to change the story, try to put up these straw men about what's actually happening, because they can't accurately refute the evidence, because the evidence was completely in support that this was that the OPCW hid and covered up and tried to censor and suppress what actually happened there. And so, which really has the horrible impact of not knowing, because people died, but we don't know, because this OPCW scandal, we don't actually know. So these people aren't even really concerned about how these people died. They're just using it to fit their pro-war, pro-U.S. imperialism, pro-U.S. intervention narrative. And it's really disgusting and sick on every level. And for, people who want to work towards world peace, get your fucking own house in order, Dylan Burns TV, you fucking pro-war, pro-death hack. I mean, Jesus Christ, let's maybe focus on the U.S. empire and dismantling that if you're really concerned about working towards achieving world peace. Otherwise, shut the fuck up. Seriously. Like the video if you like the damn video. Subscribe for more content. Peace. All part of the people.